My name is Lisa and you're watching Hearts and Yoga. We're a yoga channel, but sometimes we also do cooking demos, especially with healthy plant-based foods that I'm making for my family. So stick around, join us, and learn how to make ratatouille along with me. At the health food store the other day, I picked up this heirloom tomato. At first I was kind of laughing at it because it looked so funny. But then I ended up buying it because I thought, I don't know, it was kind of endearing and it looked kind of good too. My kids decided that I couldn't just do something ordinary with it and that I had to do something special. So after thinking about it for a while, my daughter came up with the idea that I should make ratatouille with it. So I'm gonna make a ratatouille today, and you can hang out and watch and see how it's done. I got my mise en place, or everything in one place, and I have a variety of vegetables here. I have that heirloom tomato, an eggplant, a zucchini, a red bell pepper, some red potatoes. This is a half a tomato from earlier. I have a couple shallots. You could also use onions, some garlic. And then I have Italian seasoning, some thyme and rosemary, and a little bit of garlic and onion powder just because I think that enhances things. I have avocado oil for my cooking oil because that's a high smoke point oil. I have 3 types of salt because I like to combine 3 types of salt to make my salt for things. So sea salt, regular table salt, and kosher salt. And then I just mix those together. I have my fresh ground pepper grinder, and the recipe called for a mandolin. I don't have a mandolin, so I have one of these things instead, and I'm gonna try and slice everything with that, so wish me luck. My t-shirt taster today is Mr. David Bowie dressed as Jareth, the Goblin King from Labyrinth. So I will let him have a bite when this is all finished, and we'll get his opinion on it. I'm a huge David Bowie fan, if you didn't know that already. Now you do.
If you don't have access to a mystical rodent with world-class chefly skills, you can simply do what I did and utilize this fascinating new invention called the interwebs. Although I would have preferred hand-holding, or in this case hair-holding, it turned out that online recipes in tandem with my own willingness to experiment and play worked out satisfactorily. Is that even a word? It turned out well. It turned out fine, considering it was my first time attempting to make ratatouille after all. If you're new to the intertubes, there's this cool new button on there called the subscribe button. You should make use of yours right now. As you've probably noticed, this recipe involves a lot of chopping, which did induce a significant amount of confusion in my addled, guidance-rat-free brain. The best advice I can offer is to simply power through it like the plant-based warrior that you are. Have a bowl set aside and you can place the end pieces and discards in there, which will later be turned into a delicious sauce. The impossible objective here is to get all of your veggie pieces sliced to about the same circumference and thinness. Assuming that you're subject to the laws of physics and the confines of the space-time continuum, you're not going to be able to do that. Perfect is the enemy of good, and done is better than perfect. Just do your best with it. As I was working my way through the aubergine or eggplant, I realized that some of the pieces were going to be way too large. It's okay to cut some of the veggies down to size in order to make it more consistent throughout your dish. You just place the discards in the bowl and cook them down later into your sauce. Because ratatouille is considered to be a dish for late summer and early fall, I thought some apple might be a nice addition. We had some gala apples laying around, so I thought I'd slice one up and throw it in there as well. Adding apple slices gives the dish a crisp little punch of sweetness, inexplicably reminiscent of pumpkin spice lattes, and falling orange leaves. If you too adore all things autumn as I do, you'll want to add some apples to your ratatouille. Because I happen to have some shallots laying around, I used those, but you can use onions just as well. Just mince them pretty fine. These go into your sauce, not the spirally part. My sweet cousin Tammy once asked my mother, how do they get the paper wrapped so tightly around the garlic? My mother thought about it for a while and then responded, honey, people don't do that. God does that. Were you aware that a great way to liberate garlic cloves from their divinely placed encasings was to smash them really hard with a knife? It's true. With or without paper, garlic is divine. At this point, you're ready to pour a couple tablespoons of your cooking oil into a cast iron pan. I like cast iron because it's not fussy, you don't have to worry about scratching the non-stick surface, and it actually imparts some iron into your food. People that tend to have low iron in their blood can actually benefit from eating food that's been cooked in a cast iron pan, especially when you combine that food with vitamin C. Start the cooking process with your chopped onions. Let them go until they become translucent and soft.
Right. Show me. Put it up to the camera. It's so cool.
Legend Coltrane.
You made that?
Yeah, I made that back in the day.
That's so cool.
If the bottom of your pan starts to get sticky, you can add some red wine to deglaze your pan. If you fancy, you can pour yourself a glass as well. The recipe I found online said to cook the end pieces until they became jammy. But what did jammy mean, I wondered? Did it mean that my veggies should be ready to go to a fish show or to see the Grateful Dead? I wasn't quite sure. Just let them fry. Around this phase, you can add salt, pepper, and garlic. Place a lid on it. You can add some water to the pan if you need to help the cooking process along. This is reminiscent of making paper snowflakes, but it's actually just making parchment paper oven-safe pan lids. Scrape all of that veggie goodness onto a plate. And then place that plate into the freezer for a few minutes so that you don't melt the plastic of your blender or food processor. While I was waiting for the veggies to cool off in the freezer, I decided to go ahead and spiralize my sliced veggies. When I say spiralize, I don't mean little noodle-like thingies. I mean arranging them in a spiral-like fashion so that they can be transferred to the cast iron pan, which can then be transferred into a hot oven. Once the veggies are cooled off, I place them in my BlendTech blender. You can use a food processor or the blender of your choice. Blend until it becomes a sauce-like consistency, aka a sauce. You can add a little water to the sauce when it's in the blending stage to make it a little easier to blend. It's time to pour your delicious sauce made of veggie bits and bobbles into your cast iron pan. Another reason to use cast iron here is because you need to transfer it from the stove into the oven. The sauce not only tastes delicious, but prevents the beautiful spiral-shaped veggie sculpture from sticking to the bottom of the pan. To make sure that your dish is sufficiently flavorful, add some more Italian seasoning to the top, as well as a nice drizzle of olive oil and a few dollops of the remaining sauce. Cover the whole thing with some pre-cut parchment paper as a lid. I don't mean a lid in the way that my mom used to say it in the 60s. I mean a lid for your pan. Although quite busy in his t-shirt themed labyrinth, Jareth did give me a distinctive vibe that this ratatouille is Goblin King feast-worthy fare. Here's wishing you and yours a sweet Samhain season and a hilarious Halloween. Subscribe to this channel if you like fun, healthy cooking content, and we'll see you around!